पता नहीं क्यों. Yes. So, good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to the session of today, which is of most importance. And yesterday, when we saw women leading the various, on 26th January, we saw women leading, and that made us all proud. So today, it's a coincidence that we planned this webinar on evolution of the feminist discourse. And yesterday we saw Indian women leading, be it Air Force or be it all the army sections, which we all about. So today we are going to discuss about the evolution of the feminist discourse in this webinar series. And our speaker for today is Ms. Swati Singh Parmar, who is Assistant Professor at National Law University, Jabalpur. So I heartily welcome her. And first of all, I would like to talk about this webinar series, which has been initiated by Indian Institute of Material Management and Nirwan University, Jaipur. This webinar series has been running for past almost a year very successfully. And it's a platform which we have given to the revered academicians and researchers and leaders to come and give their insights and share their experiences with our research scholars, students at large. A lot of students internationally and nationally have been joining us through these webinar series. And in this line only, today we have organized this webinar under the Center for Women and Gender Studies of Nirwan University, Jaipur. To give you a brief introduction about Nirwan University, it's an interdisciplinary university located in Jaipur, and it offers courses in various disciplines, ranging from engineering and technology to agriculture, to hospitality, yoga, education, to name the few, and also a Center for Women and Gender Studies. Indian Institute of Material Management is also an organization which deals with logistics and material management and has more than 10,000 members. So along with IIMM and UJ has planned these webinar series. And today I, Dean, Faculty of Education and Director, Center for Women and Gender Studies, Professor Tanu Tandon, welcome you all to this webinar. Today's topic is evolution of feminist discourse. Now, when we talk about feminism, to give a brief introduction, what we imply is the equal rights and opportunities of women as men. If we talk about the evolution in general sense, then it dates back to a Tea Party, which led to a Seneca Fall Convention, and from with the Lucy Mott and Elizabeth Candle, which we talked about. I think maybe with the surname I've flabbered a little, but it started as a Tea Party. So when we talk about the various waves of feminism, we can easily summarize it as the first wave of feminism, which was more of a suffrage right or a civil rights movement, which talks about the voting rights of women, which started in the late 19th century and get back to 1945 or 50, we can say, when women were finally given the voting rights. The second wave of feminism, which dates from 1960 to 1990, had more to do with equal pay and the reproductive rights and the rights of women on her body. And more so, we are reminded of Simone de Beauvoir's Second Sex, which was a revolutionary book at that time, which talked about the rights of women on her body and the reproductive rights. And also the Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan, which talks about a disease which has no name. That means the women, American women, who had nothing to do, and it talked about the equal pay. At the same time, also, we had the Black feminism coming in with Sojourn Truth and entire women and the slogans. The third one, which started from 1990s onwards, had more to do with intersectionality, which was given by Kimberlin, I suppose, I'm right, if yes. And it talked about, it brought into the race, class, sexuality, all together, and talked about the intersectionality in that sense that it talks about that you have to fuse all together when you talked about the movement. Today, we are standing at the brink of the fourth wave feminism, which talks about Me Too movement. And it's not talking about only feminism or female or women. It is including the transsexuality, the transgenders, sexes, or a gender neutrality kind of things. We are surpassing the gender norms and moving towards more of a humanist movement. But whenever we talk about feminism, we cannot take it as a linear thing. It is something which is like, and that's the reason why we call it as waves, because one overlaps the other, and the second, the first, the third. So it's not a linear thing, it's going in various directions. So to get into the depth of it, today we are fortunate to have Ms. Swati Singh Parmar with us to discuss the feminist discourse. Ms. Swati Singh Parmar has started her career as from Amity University, Lucknow, as an assistant professor. And after teaching there for some time, she moved on to National University, Dharmashastra National Law University, Jabalpur, which she joined in 2018. Her area of interest include international legal theory, international legal history, and she has been teaching legal theory, public international law, international human rights, law of international organizations, international refugee and migration law to LLM and LLB courses. She's a rank holder and a gold medalist of Allahabad University, and an excellent knowledge creation award has been bestowed upon her by Amity University. She has a diploma in diplomacy in the modern world from SOAS, University of London, and also a diploma in global diplomacy, the United Nations in the world from SOAS, University of London. She has authored a book titled An Introduction to the International Law, published by Thomson Reuters. She has published 5 book chapters, 10 research papers in international research journals on issues relating to international law. She is a member of International Society for the Therapeutic Jurisprudence, Canada. She is a member of Global Network for the Study of Human Rights and the Environment, and she's a life member of Indian School of International Law, New Delhi. So, Ms. Swati, I welcome you on my behalf personally, and also on behalf of our pro-president and registrar, Professor Goyal, who somehow for some reasons could not be present. But I welcome you to the session, and I request you to kindly start the session, please.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, both the institutions, Nirwan University, for inviting me here. And although I teach law primarily, but since we do have feminism and gender jurisprudence as a course which I was teaching for last 2 semesters, that's why I'm here to discuss something about feminism. But thank you so much, Tanu ma'am, for the kind, generous introduction. And I think while introducing feminism, you've taken so many names that gives me a lot of homework to now read some few more good scholars in feminism, because I think feminism is your primary area. So I learned a lot. And in this discussion, I am going to talk less about law, not about law, but about feminism and how the discourse began. And it's really good to connect to you all virtually. To connect to people, scholars and academics beyond law is always a very welcome thing, especially in the morning. So without much ado, I'll just share the screen and start our discussion. Okay, so when we talk about feminist discourse, this is so I'll be focusing more on how the approaches, the research approaches began, and how the seeds of feminist thought were sown in the research field. So how scholars came to talk about feminist discourse, and what are the roots? If you trace the roots, till where can you go? So first and foremost, which is the most widely accepted research approach across disciplines, this is very common in even law, and of course it's dominated in social sciences, one that was influenced by the famous social scientist Emile Durkheim, is positivism. And we have different versions of positivism that has traveled to different fields. So for example, in law, we have something that is that draws heavily from positivism, although the nomenclature is different. And I'm sure other disciplines also have uh, research methods specific to their discipline, which have come from positivism as a research method. Now, positivism, as I said, is a dominant research approach in social sciences. And positivism basically means that the basic aim of positivism is how can we predict the basic human behavior under given circumstances. So how would a human behave in under given circumstances? To predict this, the prediction is the pivot of positivist discourse in social sciences. Now, how do you make predictions? Predictions are usually made, the largely understood method would be to quantitatively collect data and generalize it in a way that we can predict an order or predict the future human pattern in relation to that particular circumstance. Now, in all of this, although positivism means a lot of other things also, but here primarily I will focus on that aspect that takes us to feminist discourse. So this is the layman's understanding of feminism, the introduction that I gave of positivism. And the underlying bottom of positivist discourse is that each social phenomena that we can see around us has a cause, the cause as in the cause effect relationship. And that cause is an objective one. It's a yes or no, it's black or white. So objectivity is there. And that objective cause is one that can be ascertained, that can be found out through human agencies. So, for example, what is the reason of poverty? What is the reason of increasing poverty in Indian society? So there could be a relationship drawn between poverty and undereducation. And objectively, lack of education could be classified as an objective cause of poverty. And this cause and effect relationship is objectively established, and this is because this is ascertainable. Human agencies, through research, through quantitative methods, or through other methods, they can ascertain this objective clause. So the basic assumption or the basic premise on which positivism is built in social sciences, as we understand that, is that every social phenomena has one or the other cause which can be ascertained objectively. Now, in the course of my slides, I have also included few reading material if you want to. So I've included few articles from journals, a few books, and a few articles from newspapers, which are exemplary to understand maybe positivism or interpretivism. So, for example, this is one a wonderful study that was done by two scholars, Maitri Mishra and Aishwarya Mohanty, in 2020, and they are associated with a wonderful project, which is Project 39A. 39A is an article under the Constitution of India. And Project 39A is a project of National Law University, Delhi, which focuses on death penalty, abolition of death penalty, and it reads a lot of things related to death penalty, including harsh punishments, etc. So in this study, in this particular study, the scholars found that for sexual violence, if we ordinarily think, if we apply the positivist lens of finding an objective cause, we as society often tend to generalize and oversimplify the instances of sexual harassment and how to check that. And our overgeneralized and oversimplified answer to that is strict and harsh punishments, which is also something which is related to carceral feminism. I'll not dwell into it. That will be too specific. So our direct correlation in this cause and effect is that sexual violence is increasing because we have less stringent laws, we have less strict laws, and if we increase punishment, it would inversely be proportional to the number of sexual violence acts. And this is our over generalized assumption through positivist lens, which Maitri and Aishwarya in this article, they struck down. They say that no, it is not like that. Rather, harsher punishments for sexual harassment, they do not have any data to tell that sexual harassment, actually the instances of it decrease once we increase the punishment, maybe the years of punishment, or make the punishments harsh and strict. So this is an excerpt from the article that I'm talking about. And this is the link. If you want, I'll share it at the end of our lecture. If anyone wants, they can read it. So I'm sharing this to tell that the fallout of positivist discourse is that we tend to generalize and oversimplify the problems and cause effect situations and social phenomena, so much so that we arrive at wrong conclusions. And although this is, even today, this is widely applauded, widely employed research approach in social sciences, even in law, but this has a lot of critiques. And through that point, through the critiques of positivism, we go to an interesting approach in research, which is interpretivism. So this comes from, obviously the nomenclature tells us that it comes from interpreting something, but what exactly are we interpreting? And as I said, that positivism has been influenced by the works of Emile Durkheim. Interpretivism comes from, majorly draws from the works of Max Weber, who talked a lot about personal experiences, human experiences, and the value of human experiences in drawing conclusions. So since interpretivism is born from the critique of positivism, therefore interpretivism says that there's no objective cause. As positivism says, unlike positivism, there cannot be one cause, or there cannot be a cause that can be objectively decided. So let me go back to the example that I took in the previous slide. If we are talking about poverty, lack of education is not the objective cause of it, is not only the objective cause. There can be many other parallel causes, and those causes necessarily cannot be put in a box objectively, that okay, only education, lack of education is the cause. No, there could be lack of privilege could be a problem, lack of other things, lack of social and economic means to have opportunities for employment could be an option. Personal choice could be an option. A person may choose to be not to be employed or not to work. So they, and also all these choices also, when I say this, I'm again doing the same mistake by classifying these causes as objective ones. So there's a great deal of subjectivity in it, which cannot be decided. This is the basic theme of interpretivism. So interpretivism says that every social phenomena around us, it actually involves individuals. Society, human is a social animal. And since individuals are involved, therefore social phenomena are driven by human experiences. And each human is different, therefore each human experience is different. So individual human experiences are different, and they're different so much that they cannot be generalized. One of the finer details of this individual experiences is that each individual associates different meanings to each and every social phenomena. A person may be hugely affected by poverty. Another person, his sibling or her sibling, may not be hugely affected by poverty, but may be affected by his or her other perspective. Similarly, for what degree of meaning do you associate to the social phenomena around you will differ from one human to another. So not only do these experiences differ from one person to another, even if they are part of same family. By same family, I mean that they are exposed to same social, economic, political, religious, cultural constraints or characteristics. So even with these same assumptions, the two individuals living in the same family can have different individual experiences based on the meanings they associate to those experiences and social phenomena. Now see, this since the example that I'm giving, this shows that there is great deal of subjectivity, and therefore to generalize something like poverty or something like unemployment or something like the increased number of sexual offenses, so generalize these things is actually wrong. It may compel us to draw wrong conclusions. Also, interpretivism believes that humans are intricate and they are complicated, and the way they behave to different social phenomena is different. So one family can have a sibling who is emotionally strong but physically weak, and another sibling who's physically strong but emotionally weak, another one who's physically emotionally both weak, and another one who's physically emotionally both not weak, both strong. So individuals are, they have intricate mechanism of behaving to social phenomena, and they have different uh, for those behaviors they draw different experiences, and once you draw different experiences, how can you generalize all that? So therefore there is nothing like objective causality in that cause effect relationship, and there's great deal of subjectivity. And this subjectivity also, since it's so varied, since it is dependent on human experience, therefore the subjectivity, to ascertain the subjectivity is a huge Herculean task. And also in this subjectivity, there are so many external factors, the change of government, the crashing of Sensex, if an individual is going back to the poverty example, if an individual is living in a slum area, the clearance of slum for construction of mall, the change of mayor in that state, the loss of parents, the removal of the student from that person from university or college. So there's so many external social factors which affect that individual in different degrees. Someone might be affected in great deal by failing in one subject, but not be affected much by the clearing of his or her house for a mall to be constructed. So the way we behave to these varying social factors is different, and that's why all this involves a lot of complex and complicated picture which cannot be objectively ascertained, and there's great subjectivity involved in this. So for example, these are the examples that I just shared with you. The poverty example for positivism, and the same example how an interpretivist would approach the poverty problem. She would say that there might be another reasons. A person may have been raped, because of which her family would have abandoned her, and she is now compelled to stay to live on roads or station or now in slum area. Uh, a person may be poor because of her family history, because her family has been poor. As you inherit your businesses, as you inherit factory owners, the daughters and sons of factory owners inherit the factory, the daughters and sons of big business enterprises inherit businesses. So as you inherit businesses, you also inherit poverty. So poverty may be a result of family history. It may be a result of you owned a factory, but some of your friend or a relative through fraud took your all your money, and you went into debt because of huge loan that you had against your property, and now you are poor. So poverty can be because of fraud, rape, family history, or choice. You don't choose to earn, you don't choose to contribute to the family business that you have, and you don't choose to be employed, and you choose to stay on streets. So there are a lot of other factors that may be attributed to poverty, and we cannot generalize it. So this is the whole premise of interpretivism. Now, interpretivism is very interesting because it tells about complexity. And this complexity is something that will take us to our um feminist discourse. Now, this is a wonderful book by Ratna Kapoor, not primarily from law, but she writes on feminist discourses and how they interact with legal fields. So it's not a primarily law book. This is on law and new politics of post-colonialism. So she's a postmodern and post-colonial author who draws heavily from Edward Said, scholars like Edward Said. Now, Ratna Kapoor in this book, this is the screenshot of first chapter of this book, Erotic Justice, in which she talks about a famous Bollywood movie. I'm sure most of you would have watched it. It's Chameli, and directed by Sudhir Mishra. And she talks about the plot of Chameli and how a journalist goes to Chameli, and he asks that, why are you spending your life in a brothel? Why are you continuing with prostitution? How did you enter into prostitution? And while telling a story, she says that actually it was a very sad story, and I was forced into forced into prostitution. And my father had taken a loan and he could not repay it. And the other male who had, from whom the father had taken loan, he surreptitiously took a chameli and pushed her into prostitution and sold her out to a brothel. And then when journalist had a very serious face and he was very sympathetic to Chameli's story, she laughed, she bursts in laughter, and she says that, see, if I tell this story to a customer, I get $500 extra for the story because they believe in my story. And then he says, oh my God, how can you joke about such a serious issue? I'm talking about a very pertinent question. Please tell me honestly, what is your real story? And she tells another story. And that's again, that my mother had some disease, terminal disease, and something bad happened, and something. And then he, again, the journalist, Aman, he was he became very serious, and then she again laughed. She said, for this story, I get $1,000 extra. Now, why am I sharing this example? I share this example to tell you that the individual, a female who is a prostitute, who's working in a brothel, the reasons for prostitution are varied. And in law and in social sciences, whenever there is a discourse on prostitution, or in law, whenever there's a law in or against prostitution, they tend to overgeneralize the situation, and they tend to think that the prostitute is a person of destitute who has been pushed into prostitution by fraud. And they usually overlook that a person may go there because of family history. A person may be born out of prostitution, and that person, the receptibility of that person by the society, especially by Indian society, is negligible, abysmal. And that is why the person born out of a prostitute's relationship, that person has no other option but to embrace prostitution. Second possible reason may be that a person chooses prostitution because she wants prostitution as a career, which this is something that would be blasphemic for a few years. So few years may, by years I mean this years, so few years may think that, oh my God, how can a female choose for prostitution? No, they very well can. You can read the prostitution in The prostitutes in Thailand, they have an I-card issued with every detail, especially the medical details, whether they're AIDS positive or negative, when was the last time they got checked for AIDS, every detail, and that's treated as a profession there by the society. So prostitution by choice is one thing that is the most neglected research. And that's why I share this example. And this example, of course, draws heavily from interpretivism, that there cannot be one reason for prostitution. There cannot be an objective cause. There could be many causes. Now, this to sum up positivism and interpretivism, one talks about objective cause, another talks about no, there's no objective cause, there's a lot of subjectivity, which is not ascertainable. The two leading works that I think were fundamental in starting the discourse on positivism and interpretivism, respectively. One is Suicide. The book is titled Suicide by Emile Durkheim. The sociology academics from sociology would have definitely read this work, monumental work by Emile Durkheim. And second, on interpretivism, if you want to read further, if you're interested in reading, then there's a wonderful work by Paul Willis. This work was very interesting, one of its own kind, an early work that tried to tell that how the kids of working class, they actually tend to join working class only. They do not think of starting their own business, and they are pushed into the same socio-economic political brackets of their parents. And there was a study on many school children, and this is a very interesting decisive study. The research method that he has used is interesting, and this is one of the starting points of interpretivism, especially how to use it in research. So these are two readings, if anyone wishes, can have his hands on. Now, positivism, interpretivism. Now, how interpretivism takes us further to feminist discourses. So interpretivism says that whatever is the reality, don't look at the reality as it is. There certainly is something more. Don't say that lack of education is the direct cause of poverty, because that is what you can think. No, please go research and unearth the actual causes of poverty. And through that takes birth the different critical approaches that critique the existing social, economic, or political situations. And critical approaches, I have merely written four different categories, four known categories of critical approaches, but there are many other critical approaches. So its critical approaches are definitely not merely, they are not merely these four, they go beyond it. So the basic premise of interpretivism, that no, look for answers beyond the reality. The real picture will not give you answers. Please look beyond it. So that is the point where critical approaches take the discourse further. And critical approaches are these are the four categories that I will quickly discuss with you. So one is Marxist approach, very well known, that sees the relationship between owners and workers. And Karl Marx, of course, is the father of Marxist tradition and critical approaches. And there are many other Marxist approaches that have grown out of Marxist approach. So, for example, socialist approach, for example, Marxist approach to history, Marxist approach to international law. So there are many other approaches that have taken birth from Marxist approaches. This is the broad categorization. Then second, also very well known, is colonialist approach. This critically studies the relationship between the colonizer and the one who's colonized. How colonizers affected and molded the education for the colonized so that they are pushed into one ideology, or how colonizers drafted the laws for the colonized so that they could remain colonized, or how colonizers changed the environment. So for example, in case of India, the indigo farming and the Bengal famine related to that. So how colonizers actually uh, channelized a famine, which was a man-made famine, of a very disastrous famine. So all these are examples of colonist critical approaches study. Now, another broad category is anti-racist. So unearthing uh, the relationship, the complex relationship that are born out of race, the racist ideology. And this again reads the relationship between the whites and the non-whites. So what relationship do they have? The cause-effect relationship. And then our feminist discourse that we are discussing today, it deals with men and women, the relationship between them. Now, this is, again, I have overgeneralized feminist discourse, men and women, because feminist discourse is wide. It has not only the waves that ma'am mentioned, of course, the waves are there. There's liberal feminism, there's social feminism, there's Marxist feminism, there is modern feminism, there is radical feminism, and then there is carceral feminism that I discussed. And then there is queer theory, which says that feminist, by drawing the whole debate to the binary of male and female, or men or women, they actually further this idea in our society that a person has to be either female or a male, and they don't leave any bubble for transgender, for lesbian, for gay, and other identities. So the queer theory and the theories that have been devised to understand transgender, they actually question this binary created by feminists, the men women. So that's why, although I have mentioned here men women for our generic understanding, but then here's a word of caution against it. So this generalization is also questioned. And the thing that I've mentioned here is the traditional understanding of feminist schools. Now there's a critique on the usage of the binary and classifying the whole humankind in two boxes of male and female. So these boxes are questioned, and it's said that why do you have to have boxes? Why can't you have a gender fluid kind of discourse? So gender fluidity is there, but I have not included it in this. So these are the broad category of critical approaches that we see in social sciences, humanities. A few of them also have traveled to law. Now this critical approaches takes us to one of its kind is feminist discourse. But then before that, what is critical approach? What exactly is that? So critical approach says that the existing approaches that were there, positivism, the branches of positivism, interpretivism, and the branches of it, uh, all have tried to show us some picture of the problem, but they have majorly they've tried to hide a lot of things. And the thing that they try to hide is power dynamics. Power dynamics is something which is central to any of the critical approaches. So critical approaches, all those that I shared in the previous slide and a lot more other examples, the commonality, the common thread of all the critical approaches is power dynamics. They try to reveal the power dynamics. They say that every social phenomena is built upon power dynamics. Every group of individuals or two individuals, they have some kind of power dynamic relationship between them, and which usually remains hidden unless it is unearthed by a critical approach. And these power dynamics actually result in oppressive relationship. So, and this is something which I think most of us have accepted and do not realize. But if we try to see our relationships that we have in our society as a social animal, the relationship that we have with our friends, with our family, with our colleagues, with our students, with a salesman, with an Amazon delivery boy, all kind of relationship, if you try to understand, you will definitely come to conclusion about one or the other power dynamics that you share with that other person. Either you are at the receiving end of this oppressive relationship that is born out of these power dynamics, or you are at the giving end. One person may be at the receiving end, one person may be at the giving end. I, as a teacher, the dynamics that I have with my students, the power that I have, this power of asking a student to submit the assignment on so and so date, asking a student to appear in Viva Voce, or asking a student to appear in a written exam. This is a kind of power dynamics. When I'm supervised by my vice chancellor to attend a faculty meeting, that's the kind of power dynamics. When a guard of my university salutes me, that's a kind of power dynamics. When a parent comes to me to talk about his or her child, that is a kind of power dynamics. When I go and buy a commodity from a mall and a salesperson comes and shows something, that's a kind of power dynamics. So each and every social phenomena, each and every human relationship involves some or the other kind of power dynamics, which needs to be unearthed. And revealing this power dynamics is the core of any of the critical approaches. And previous approaches to research have maybe not revealed it enough. And that's why we are talking about critical approach. So for example, here I mentioned, again, I come with an example here. Now, critical approach especially lays emphasis on the fact that what is apparent may not be real. So what it appears, it's not important that the real picture also coincides with the appearance. There might be a lot of underlying factors, and these underlying factors are what? They are actually the ones that are rooted in some or the other kind of power dynamics. My behavior, my body language with my student, and my behavior, my body language, my tone, my pitch while I talk to my vice chancellor. So these are different, and humans behave differently when exposed to different power dynamics. So for example, I'll just read this out. Sex in married life is the reflection of intimacy of the spouse. The evidence given by women clearly establishes that she was subjected to all. Treating a wife's body as something owing to husband and committing sexual acts against her will is nothing but marital rape. Something that we are talking, so marital rape is very much in discussion right now, and it is all over social media. There is a Supreme Court judgment that is pending on it. There are previous judgments on marital rape, which are highly critiqued, not only by feminist scholars, but also by scholars beyond feminism. So I'll resume. Merely for the reason that the law does not recognize marital rape under penal law, it does not inhibit the court from recognizing the same as a form of cruelty to grant divorce. We therefore are of view that marital rape is a good ground to claim divorce. Now, this is these lines come from a judgment that was given 2 years back on marital rape, and I share these lines to establish that when you're talking about marital rape, we usually say there's so many arguments from this side and that side. Many anti-feminists would say that marriage is a license to sex, and a sexual relationship, if established by the husband, even against the will, that is fine, which is very stupid, I would say. But if we approach the problem of marital rape, a critical approach would say that please see what are the factors underlying it. There can be marital rape in a situation where a woman did not oppose at that time and later she complains of marital rape. And the court may say that, okay, why did you not complain at that time? And since you did not resist, since you did not scratch or bite or thrash your husband during the marital rape, that would take us to an assumption, and we'll assume that you had consented to it. And if you had consented, then there's no marital rape. Now, this argument by a judge, hypothetical argument, this is flawed because it very comfortably overlooks the intricate power dynamics involved in a male-female relationship in a wedlock. So the relationship of wife and husband, especially in a patriarchal society like India, and I think most of the countries of world except European states are, even many European states, they have an intricate relationship of between wife and husband, which is motivated by the traditional patriarchal setup in which there are fixed boxes of how a wife has to behave, socially, economically, politically, and how a husband has to behave. And in that fixed boxes, to say that you did not resist without contextualizing that whether she actually had the power to resist, whether she had actually had the option, courage, or physical power or mental power to actually resist and thrash the husband, where thrashing would invariably result in divorce, because thrashing wife is common, it's fine, and thrashing a husband is very serious. So within that confined understanding of wife and husband and the power dynamics that they share in a patriarchal society, can you overgeneralize as a judge about marital rape? Now, although these lines were applauded because this was the initial years when judiciary came out against marital rape, because before that marital rape was treated as something very normal. There's no problem in marital rape, it's fine. There were very insensitive jokes that have been shared on social media on, oh my god, now marital rape, okay, so we, after buying a product, before using, we'll have to take permission of the shopkeeper again. So these kind of overgeneralized insensitive jokes were doing rounds on social media. Of course, because most of us do not read about feminism, we always think that, okay, we have an understanding of feminism through some of the other ads or maybe movies. So this although is an applauded judgment, but again, this is problematic because this says that marital rape, since India does not have a law against marital rape, since India does not classify marital rape as a category of rape under Indian Penal Code 1860, that's why we will not make this criminal. We can't. So Parliament, by making law, makes an act as criminal or not. A court of law cannot make something criminal. So of course, marital rape is not criminal because the law is silent on that. Not that it's not criminal. It is criminal in most of the countries of the world. But in India, since we do not have a law, since as a society, we draw so much from patriarchy, we are not evolved on our gender content to be capable enough of making a law criminalizing marital rape. And therefore, we do not have a law. So what we will do, what this judgment is suggesting, is that we will not hold the husband criminal, but of course, you do have a ground. If you prove marital rape, then you do have a ground in divorce if you want to go for divorce. How? Because marital rape is a kind of cruelty, and cruelty is one of the grounds for asking for divorce by wife. So since cruelty is a ground, marital rape can be taken as an example of cruelty, that too by way of interpretation of this judgment. Now imagine a situation of a female who has suffered marital rape and who has complained against marital rape. And marital rape, if it is not proven, then of course, in all the situations, the husband is going to divorce that female. The female might not be educated. The husband might have asked her not to pursue her graduation or post-graduation after marriage. If she's educated, the husband might have asked her to leave her job after marriage to take care of the family, parents, a lot of things. And in such situation, if marital rape is not proved, in all likelihood, the husband is eventually going to file for a divorce. And if the marital rape is proven, then female has no option but to go for divorce. But maybe the female felt that her body was violated sexually in a way that she wants the husband to be proven guilty, because this is against her will. And this is just because it's not illegal, just because law does not classify as a criminal act, there is literally no recourse that this female has. And this is the complexity of applying critical approach, especially feminist approach, in the debate of marital rape. Now, this again is very introductory, very basic. There's a lot of debate that goes in marital rape, but I'm not discussing this because I think I'm falling short of time. So I'll quickly move to. So this was the judgment that I was sharing. I can share the details if anyone wants to read this. This was from a family court of Ernakulam, Kerala. Now this is a picture that was doing rounds on social media, very evocative, arousing motherhood and sympathy and the grandeur of the figure of mother and what mother can do, that she is a corona patient and she's on oxygen. Her oxygen is less, but still she's cooking something, and the quotes through which it was doing rounds on social media was that she's cooking for a family or for her children. And see the tag of the picture, unconditional love. So how the figure of mother, the portraiture of mother, otherwise also the portraiture of mother in literature, in media, in movies, in songs, lyrics, where the portraiture of mother is as something who's the figure of sacrifice and unconditionality. She loves her sons and daughters unconditionally. Now, this also reads, she's never off duty. So she's a corona patient. She has low oxygen. I don't know whether she survived or not, but she's cooking for a family. Now, this kind of photos that arouse motherly, the grandeur of mother. This actually what we are doing, if we interpret it, if we apply the critical approach. So this is the apparent picture, but what is the real picture? The real picture may be that her husband and her children are not told to cook. They're not told cooking skill, which is a very basic survival skill. At least during the lockdown, most of us who were stranded in different cities would have understood by now that cooking is a basic gender fluid skill that everyone has to have. And maybe no one in her family knew cooking, and that's why she's cooking. And also the kind of message, the kind of semiotics that this picture is trying to convey, that, oh, her unconditionality is very nice. You're actually pushing another woman, all other rest women, into that kind of unconditionality, because you are not only creating an unconditionality, but also putting a message out in social media, eulogizing and defining that this is how a female who's a mother has to behave, setting an example. And any deviant behavior, a female who does not want to do the same, or who does not have the emotional or physical strength to stand in such a situation to do the same, is on that side of the line. And the one who behaves like this, who performs similar conditions in such situation, is on this good side of the line. So that's why the kind of characteristics that we often draw, eulogizing how a perfect wife has to be, how a perfect mother has to be, how a perfect daughter has to be, this actually has to be rethought, especially on the lines of power dynamics. Was she doing it out of love, or was she doing it out of compulsion? Did she not have any other option? Did she not have any other alternative? Was she so much in destitute that even in Corona, when her oxygen was less, she had no other option because of the power dynamics that we all sitting here as a society have created, that she had no other option? So we really need to think the social phenomena that we are exposed to around us in these situations. Now, I'll try to wind up in next 5-10 minutes. So I'll quickly take two examples here. So marital rape, I've already discussed. The Ghungat example I'll take. So the tradition of having Ghungat, or the tradition of having Naqab, if it is viewed, if it is deconstructed, so positivism would say that there is an objective element, and this Ghungat wearing female has definitely consented voluntarily to wear Ghungat, or this female who's wearing a Naqab has by choice consented voluntarily to wear Naqab, and that's why she's doing it. So you are seeing the social phenomena as it exists, the apparent picture. But the critical approach will say that this woman who's wearing Ghungat, or this woman who's wearing Naqab, did she have actual voluntary element? Did she have actual consent? In this power dynamics of the power dynamics that they have with their families, especially with the males in their families, their fathers and brothers, and of course the society that has constructed this idea that a female, the femininity has to be guarded, especially by physical guard like Ghungat and Naqab. These elements, where do these elements come from? These elements are actually revealing us the power dynamics that's there, that these women share with their families and with their societies as whole. And this power dynamics tells us that actually these women do not have a position of giving a consent. They do not have the exposure, candidature, the courage, or the education to actually say that no, we are not going to carry forward this tradition, or we choose not to wear Ghungat. Maybe some female wants to wear Ghungat, and some of them do not want to. It's perfectly their choice. So these women, did they have voluntary element? Did they have actual consent in it? Maybe yes, maybe not. And this is what critical approach would tell us, that this nature of voluntary element, maybe they have said yes, but that yes is it an apparent yes or a real yes? Have they said yes because they actually wanted to wear Ghungat? Or have they said yes because they never knew that they have the option of saying no also? So they do not have an option of saying no. They don't know what will the repercussion of it be, honor killing or something else. They don't know how would their family members behave, how badly this would be taken, and that's why they don't have an option of saying no. So positivism would draw another conclusion, and critical approach would take us to another line. Now, even when critical approach says that this female maybe has said yes, and that yes is actually really through her will, then also why is this that yes is another debate? So is it yes because she likes the aesthetic sense of wearing Ghungat, or is it yes because she feels that wearing Ghungat would actually increase her market value as a bride? So that again is a point of debate. Now, when I talk about power dynamics, there are different categories of power dynamics and different combinations of these categories. So as I have discussed about critical approaches, from the same category, we draw many power dynamics. So in colonialism, there's power dynamics between the colonizer and the colonized. So one of the driver of power dynamics is colonialism. Another well-known driver that is universal, I think, is patriarchy, the relationship between the patriarch and the others. Another is supremacy, the supremacy of the head of the state, or supremacy of queen, or supremacy of king, or supremacy of head of the family, or supremacy of head of the institution. Superiority, that I'm superior to you, maybe because of my race, my color, my caste, my region from where I come, my religion, or any other criteria. Dominance, I have dominance over you because maybe I'm rich, maybe I come from affluent class, maybe I own the school in which you or your kids study. So this dominance is also a kind of uh, driver of power dynamics. Now, although I'm discussing these drivers separately, but there is great deal of combination of these drivers. So in a given social phenomena, there the it would be interesting to see that what degree of this is affected by patriarchy and what degree is affected by superiority and dominance. So there, it's not watertight compartmentalization of these categories of drivers. They work parallelly, they work in combinations, they work in ratios in social phenomena. And what are the different categories uh, of the effects that these power dynamics have around us in the society around us? So colonialism and patriarchy may lead to racism, racism that Americans are white and superior, Europeans are white and superior, the white man's burden, and African and Asian and other Middle East states, the people of that are not white and therefore not sophisticated, therefore not civilized. Sexism is also a power manifestation of patriarchy. Then elitism, colonialism, elitism heavily draws from colonialism, homophobia, gender discrimination, etc. Now, patriarchy is not only male superiority, but also telling that male has to be strong, well-built, safe, safeguarding the others in his family, etc. So there are characteristics also. So a woman may be patriarchal in her thought, in her gesture, in the way she behaves. So it's not that males are the chariot holders of patriarchy, women are equally chariot holders of it. And this patriarchy also results in able-bodyism, that I am able and you are physically challenged. Why? Because because you are physically challenged, maybe you have amputated hand, leg, or other things, because of which you cannot have the same valor and same bodily masculine uh, uh, characteristic that patriarchy idealizes. So this able-bodyism also comes from that. And then superiority supremacy gives us privileges of different kinds, prejudices, biases, otherings, the exotic otherings, exclusion, etc. And then dominance, of course, is gives uh, a thing which is much critiqued in law, but we still do not have example, which is inequality, haves and haves not. Ours is a highly unequal society, and which of course leads to injustice. So these are the categories of power dynamics. Now I know I think 12. I've already 12 has passed, so I'll quickly hurriedly just share the slide. So this is various domains of power and how do they interact in creating different social ideologies. Now, these are the different sources of power, as the examples that I gave of me being a teacher, me as a faculty, me as a customer, me as a shopkeeper. So all these examples, if you try to fit into, you can fit into one or the other boxes. So there's formal power, the power that the head of the state has over its citizens, for example, or the power that head of the institution has over the employees. There's legitimate power, that's legitimate. There's expert power, that I'm a doctor, you come to me, you have a small problem, and I say that actually there's a huge problem and you need to undergo a surgery, because I will maybe be benefited by the huge expenses that that surgery incurs. So I am an expert and I am in a powerful position to suggest you, and you as a non-expert have no other option but to go by that. I think lawyers, I very comfortably overlooked the example of lawyers. Lawyers have that expert power enormous, and I think there are so many situations that that power is abused. So expert power is also one category of power. We usually do not recognize this kind of power. Then referent power. I can refer you to one institution. I'm referring you to that institution because I have some hidden ulterior gain out of that. And since you believe me as a referee, that's why when I'm referring, you don't have any other option. So I have a referent power over you. There can be coercive power that says that finish your homework, only then you'll get to go for play, or only if you get 95% in your board exams, only then you will get a bike, maybe. So there's a kind of coercive power. There's reward power, that please finish your the previous example that I took, that also is a reward power, that I can reward you if you do that. Then other kinds of informational power, connection power, political power, and charismatic power. And all these powers can equally be employed in understanding the feminist discourses. Now, I'll wind up here. These are the books that I wanted to share with you all. If you are interested in reading more on critical legal studies, I'm sure I'm not talking to audience who work in legal field, but otherwise this is a wonderful guide for critical legal studies by Mark Kelman. And these are three books which are very important. One is Are Women Human? This talks about the status of women in broad rights, human rights and fundamental rights framework. This is by Catherine A. McKinnon, a celebrated feminist scholar. Then second would be, my second suggestion would be by Patricia Hill Collins. This is Black Feminist Thought, very less debated about, especially by Asian scholars. This is much contributed by African scholars. We have scarcely contributed to this thought. And then this is Feminism is for Everybody. This also would be a good read. So I'll wind up there. Any questions? I'll be happy to take any questions.
I think questions would be there at the Facebook, which can be taken later on. And that was a wonderful session, Ms. Swati. And I was so engrossed into it that I didn't realize that the time has gone by, and you were the one who pointed out that I have gone through it. But yes, the critical theory and which you talked about and gave a very relevant and very striking examples, which made everyone think, especially about the marital rape, which is again a big debatable issue in our country, and the kind of power and things which you talked about. I wish we had another session with you where you can talk about those power dynamics. But all in all, it was a wonderful session, very informative, very insightful, and most importantly, what I believe in feminism, what is more for women at large and for gender at large, most important point is that the thoughts have to come in your mind wherein you challenge the existing notions, you talk about those existing prejudices which are going on, you challenge them, you debate them, and you think of the new paradigms, new things, new perspectives which can come up. So your session today is important from this point of view, that it made us, the listeners, think about the existing notions.
Yes.
It also sowed a seed of debating and challenging those. And I'm really sure and confident that when we start challenging, debating, talking, and thinking about the existing notions, we start thinking of the new paradigms. So I thank you, Swati, for Ms. Swati, for coming and accepting and giving your time and talking about such issues which really need our attention. So I again thank you, and I look forward to having more sessions with you. So thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, ma'am.
Swati, ma'am, I have a question for you.
Yes.
So, like, as you have talked about that feminism, like related to prostitution, that this is one of the sector people are not talking about it, in especially in India or Asian countries. If we talk, as you said, that Thailand is taking it as a business point, right? But in India, we have this problem, and people are not interested to, do the research on this part. So, what are the aspects, as per you, like where we can go for the research and in this particular area? Because this is one of the very, thinkable situation for Indian society, basically.
Hmm. Yes, yes. I thank you for the question. I think that's a very pertinent question, and we as scholars don't actually adopt a lot of data collection techniques primarily, and this is one area where it would actually give us interesting results. So. This is one institution, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, that is involved in wonderful research, especially the ground level researchers, and they actually send their students to villages or red light areas or brothels to conduct their studies. They might be required to stay there or to visit the place for a month or so, and they conduct wonderful studies. There are one or two studies that I can share. You can also check their website. I'm sure they would have mentioned about researches, that kind of researches. But one broad category of research, which in my limited understanding is not much talked about, is that prostitution can be out of choice. A person may feel that prostitution is one thing that I look up to as a career, and there are so many I think interviews you can find online about various porn stars. So for example, I think Mia Khalifa recently, she came out of porn industry, and she had one interview, I think it was on BBC, I'm not sure about it, it would be there on YouTube, where she said that I entered, and I entered out of choice. I entered into porn industry out of choice, and now I'm out of it. So there are very less discussions, I think, because there are male researchers more and female researchers less, and male researchers quoting male researchers more. In fact, there's a wonderful study on that also, that how female researchers are extremely less quoted. Even a female researcher she avoids on quoting other female researchers from her field. So because male researchers are more and they're quoted more, and that is why they have larger audience and larger visibility, which is a very big problem in research and academia.
This is the literary power dynamics.
Yes, yes, exactly. So because of that, I think they don't take these, especially this field, as a study, because I think as a patriarchal mind, we completely fail to recognize that a female can have a choice, because that gives her a stature that's equal to a man. And we usually feel that female is a marginalized person who's pushed because she cannot have a consent of her own. So she has not by choice opted for prostitution, but she has definitely been pushed into it because of fraud, because of some loan that her family has taken, or some other situation.
I have something to say.
And
Yeah. Dr. Pooja, I would recommend you to read a book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed.
Okay, sure, I'll do that.
Yeah. So that is a cult book, you can say, if you have talked about or heard about it, the Pedagogy of the Oppressed.
Because if we talk about equality, like gender equality is something, something else. It's more about, like women is not accepting women in such kind of profession.
It's not. That is the reason why I'm telling you. If you talk about pedagogy, if you read about the pedagogy of the oppressed, also you'll realize, and also as Swati talked about the Durkheim and other things. See, the majority is afraid of minority because they are scared the minority becomes the majority. So this is the hidden truth behind all those power dynamics which are going on. And this is what we are observing in the caste and the other
Yes.
dynamics which are happening in our country. Now, when you
Yes.
talk about the oppressed and the oppressor, like it's a very small example that if a man who is working in a factory is being fed by liquor every evening by the boss, and he feels that, okay, my boss is perfect because every evening, apart from salary, he also gives me a bottle of liquor. But he's not realizing that the boss is making him the slave of that liquor. So till you are working in the factory, I'm providing you with all that liquor. And once you are habitual of that liquor, then who is, again, you are in my control because I'm providing you with that liquor. So every evening, so you will work very hard for that one bottle at the end. And then this one bottle is not only slaving you with that habit, but also because you will lose all your thinking capability. And that's what I want. I don't want you to think. I don't want you to challenge. I don't want you to debate. And this prostitution thing, which Swati talked about, it's a very small, minuscule thing that I don't want you to have a right on your body. Your body belongs to a man. So a man will decide what you do with your body. So even if you want to go for prostitution by your own will, no, it is not acceptable because a man will decide what a woman does with her body and how she does with her body. So she has no right. These are the things which go on. You must read Second Sex. You must read these. It's an a pedagogy of the oppressed. I think we are falling short of time, but this is something which is, and this is the reason why I had a very we have a very renowned academician here. You must have heard of maybe might be Professor Rakesh Chandra. Swati knows. So I had a very big debate about this with Professor Rakesh Chandra, wherein I said that prostitution should be legalized. And he was like, "Oh, Tanu, what you're talking about?" And all flared up.
That's what the Indian society is not accepting.
He is a different. He's on a different tangent. He belongs to that category which believe is humanism. Why he opposed was because he felt that this is something which cannot be done, should not be done. We should have better ways of earning and something. But again, as Swati pointed out in the critical theory, who will decide what is the so-called good profession or the bad profession and other things? These, and you said women standing against women. No, women are not standing against women. Men have created such notions that women stand against each other. They don't. But the point of contention is again man. So again, who is ruling the women's thinking? Men. मैं वो नायाब हीरा हूं जिसके पीछे चार भागे, एक अनार 100 बीमार. तो किसने कहा कि आप अनार हैं? आप ही ने तो कहा कि हम अनार हैं और आप बीमार हैं, आप आइए हमारे पीछे. तो विमेन को सोचने ही मत दो अपने बारे में, अपनी बॉडी के बारे में, अपनी थिंकिंग के बारे में. उसको बोलो कि यही एक आपका पॉइंट है जिसके इर्द गिर्द आपको घूमना है. सो दे विल रिवॉल्व अराउंड दैट. एंड देन व्हेन दे सी द कंपटीशन, so they will say, okay, now women are against. Again, this notion has been circulated and percolated by men. And how does your people got that? Women got that idea because somewhere that thinking was drilled in the minds of women by a man. So let us raise our sons to be more instead of raising our daughters. Let us raise a gender fluid generation now, which talks beyond men, women, girls, boys. This is the reason we had a very good session on gender neutral education, wherein we had Yadvendra, if you know, Awadh Queer Parade, Swati. Okay. Yadvendra is there from Lucknow itself. So we had that we need to have a gender neutral education, a gender, and then again all these professions which come up. Earlier it was like boys will be engineers and girls will be doctors and nurses and teachers. अब हम उसी पे डिपेट करे चले जा रहे हैं. But the point is that we need to come out of this. Now I'm sure there are male prostitutes as well, but that is also a very hidden thing. Why can't male come out and say that okay, they are male? Again, because a man cannot be this. Why? Because how can a woman enjoy sex? How can a woman call for a male prostitute? She doesn't have any right on her body, on her desires. No, only a man can tell her when to have when to enjoy or when to whatever desires. So this is something which is a very, I think we all need to critically think about even our
Well
notions.
said. Because this is one of the point, Anu ma'am, as you are talking now, it's something, one way of thinking, like no doubt men dominance is there in our society, but somehow women also need to think in that, in that broader way for the acceptance in this way, what Swati ma'am said just now. So I think woman mentality is not even developed somehow.
It is not that it has not been. Women have mentality, they don't have voices. हम सोचते हैं, हम बोलते नहीं हैं.
Ma'am, education is one of the lacking part in our country for women.
Dr. Pooja, you will not believe it. Educated women have the voices. Even आपके पास जो अनपढ़ हैं, उनकी voices वो ज़्यादा जोर से बोल लेती हैं. जो educated हैं, middle class हैं, they are more bothered about what people will say. I'm not supposed to do this. I'm not supposed to do that. We can go on and on. It's a very beautiful, it's a wonderful discussion we are having.
This is something, ma'am, this is one itself is a topic to, research on it.
Yes, because see, women have voices, but they have been silenced and they themselves silence themselves. I have personally, because I'm a very outspoken and I'm very, Swati knows, flamboyant kind of personality. I have, because I speak my mind. But most of the times I feel that women, they don't want to. By my research, my PhD was on this only, on women aggression and other things. So, and also one thing which I would like to focus upon, maybe on our next webinar or something, if we can have it, let men also be men. There can be men who don't want to drive. There can be men who don't want to, be masculine and superhero saving the world. There can be men who just want to, have a low profile. They can be, we all are different personalities. Let us not compartment into कि तुम आदमी हो तो तुम ऐसे होगे, तुम औरत हो तो तुम ऐसे होगे. And even if the men wants to have a prostitution as their profession, let's not look down upon them. Like we say, let's not talk about looking down upon women, especially those who are thrown into this prostitution. Of we look, and when you, I don't want to take the name, but recently we had news about heroines and some female heroine having links with certain people who underworld and something, and they were out of their choice for the money and for everything. So that is being glamorized. And those women who are simply pushed into this racket, they are the ones who are at the receiving end. So I think once we start accepting it, once we start taking it, legalize it, I think these things will stop to a limit, that you don't throw people. Because, in the last parting quote, I would like to say, prostitutes, they do a big favor to all women like us. हम जैसी औरतों पे ये prostitutes बहुत बड़ा एहसान करते हैं. Because if they are not there, सड़क पे इतनी बुरी तरीके से औरतें पकड़ी जाएंगी and they'll be raped like anything. These are the women those men go to, and because of them, there are women who are protected. Think about it. This is also one part of it. This is also one part of it. Swati will agree, being from a law, that how these things go on, and कितनी बार सिर्फ इनके कारण बहुत सारे जो वहशीपन जो होता है वो रुक जाता है, because वो उनकी तरफ डायरेक्ट हो जाता है. So they are the ones who are at the receiving end of all this violence also. So I think it's something which we have to look upon. But I'm so happy, Dr. Pooja, you also participated and ignited some thoughts. And since we are running out of time, so I thank you all. And
thank you, Swati ma'am. It was really very informative session, I must say. I really completely enjoyed.
Thank you.
And a lot of information took from Tanu ma'am also on this. So that was amazing.
I would second that. I would second that.
It is always, when you are with, good minds, automatically your thoughts also start coming up. So that's good to be in a good company.
Good.
So thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Good talk session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone, for inviting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swati. Thank you, Dr. Pooja.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Tanu ma'am. Thank you, Swati ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Hope we'll meet physically soon.
Yes,
Tanu
yes,
ma'am,
Swati.
Sure,
Bhopal
sure.
and Lucknow. Yes.
Bhopal is near, ma'am. We can meet.
Yes. Sure.
Okay.
We'll plan. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Thank you.